There's something nobody really tells you about economic collapse. It's not the dramatic moment you see in movies, not the day the stock market crashes on every news channel, not the instant the power grid suddenly shuts down. The truth is, collapse rarely looks like that. Most of the time, it begins quietly. It begins on an ordinary afternoon, maybe a Tuesday. You stop by the pharmacy you've been going to for years, only to notice the door is still locked. There's a small printed sign taped to the glass explaining that shipments haven't arrived yet. At first, you don't think much of it, supply delays happen, but when 3 weeks pass and that same sign is still there, things start to feel different. And when your child suddenly gets sick and you realize there are no antibiotics available anywhere nearby, that's when the truth begins to sink in. The system you relied on your entire life isn't working the way it used to. Then there are life moments that feel even heavier. The kind of moments that arrive late at night when everything is quiet. You're standing in your kitchen in the dark because the power has been out for days. The entire neighborhood is silent except for the low hum of a generator somewhere down the street. For a few seconds, you almost feel relieved. At least someone still has electricity. Then the generator begins to sputter. The engine coughs once, then again, then fades into silence, and suddenly, the night feels much darker than before. Because you already know something your neighbor has just realized. Your own generator stopped working yesterday. That's the moment when a strange realization hits you. All those things that once seemed valuable, investment portfolios, digital wallets, cryptocurrency accounts, suddenly feel meaningless compared to something incredibly simple. A small bottle of hydrogen peroxide, a cheap plastic lighter, a needle and a piece of thread. In a functioning world, these items feel insignificant. They sit in drawers and cabinets, barely noticed. But when systems begin to fail, the smallest tools become the most powerful ones. The difference between comfort and suffering, sometimes even the difference between life and death, can come down to objects that cost less than a cup of coffee. People tend to imagine societal collapse as a sudden explosion of chaos, riots in the streets, governments falling overnight, the end arriving in a single dramatic wave, but history tells a very different story. Collapse usually happens slowly, so slowly that most people don't recognize it at first. The early signs are subtle. Payment systems stop working consistently. Shipments begin arriving late. Certain products disappear from store shelves for longer than usual. At first, people assume it's temporary, a logistics issue, a shortage that will resolve itself soon. Then one day, you walk into the neighborhood store that has always been fully stocked, and the shelves are strangely empty. A few dusty cans of fruit, some stale crackers, maybe a handful of items nobody really wants. And that's when something fascinating happens. Everyday objects you never thought twice about suddenly become incredibly valuable. In Venezuela, during the economic collapse of 2016, people weren't trading gold for luxury goods. They were trading family jewelry for toilet paper. Not food, not water, toilet paper. During the siege of Sarajevo in the 1990s, something as simple as a disposable lighter became so valuable that people would trade an entire week's worth of food for a single working one. These aren't ancient stories from distant centuries. These events happened in modern societies that once looked just as stable as ours. What they reveal is a simple truth. The value of an object is defined by the problems it can solve when everything else stops working. Take something as simple as a cheap disposable lighter. In normal life, it's almost worthless. You can buy one for $1 and lose it without thinking twice. But in a world without electricity, without gas stoves, without reliable heating systems, the ability to create fire instantly becomes priceless. Fire means you can boil water. It means you can cook food that would otherwise spoil. It means warmth during freezing nights. It means light when the world goes dark. And the difference between starting a fire instantly with a lighter or struggling for 40 minutes with primitive methods in cold rain can be enormous. But the real power of small tools doesn't stop there. Think about something as simple as clothing. Most people today haven't sewn anything in years. When a shirt tears or a bag breaks, we simply replace it. That's the world we're used to. Easy replacement. But imagine a world where stores can't restock anymore, where every item you own must last as long as possible. In that world, a tiny sewing kit becomes incredibly valuable. A ripped jacket isn't just annoying anymore, it could mean losing body heat during a cold night. A broken backpack strap could mean losing the gear you rely on to survive. The ability to repair things instead of throwing them away becomes one of the most valuable skills you can have. The same principle applies to small plastic tools like zip ties. Most people think of them as simple cable organizers, but in difficult conditions they become fast, reliable ways to secure objects, repair structures, or attach materials together. Their real strength isn't just durability, it's speed. When your hands are numb from cold, or when you're working in darkness and stress, tying a complicated knot with rope can be frustrating and slow. A zip tie solves the same problem in seconds. Then there's aluminum foil. To most people, it's just a kitchen product used for wrapping food. But in survival conditions, aluminum foil becomes incredibly versatile. It can reflect heat back into a shelter, helping conserve warmth during cold nights. It can line a simple cardboard box to create a solar oven capable of cooking food using nothing but sunlight. It can waterproof small tools and electronics. It can be shaped into reflective signals visible from miles away during rescue situations. But if there's one category of items that becomes absolutely critical when infrastructure fails, it's sanitation and medical care. History shows that during disasters, people rarely die from violence alone. Far more people die from infections. A small, untreated cut, a scratch that becomes contaminated, a wound that isn't properly cleaned. In a world without hospitals or antibiotics, those tiny injuries can quickly become deadly. That's why something as simple as hydrogen peroxide becomes incredibly important. When poured onto a wound, it releases bubbles as it destroys bacteria and pathogens that could lead to infection. In modern life, we take this process for granted because medical care is always available. But when it isn't, the ability to disinfect wounds properly can literally save lives. Other tiny tools become unexpectedly valuable as well. Safety pins, for example, may look trivial, but their uses multiply in situations where improvisation becomes necessary. They can hold bandages in place, remove splinters, repair broken zippers, secure gear, or even function as makeshift fishing hooks when food becomes scarce. Even items we associate purely with comfort, like lip balm, can suddenly become important. Constant exposure to wind, sun, and cold can cause painful cracks in the lips. Those cracks aren't just uncomfortable, they create open pathways for infection. Lip balm protects that fragile skin, but it can also serve as an emergency fire starter when applied to cotton. Dental floss is another example of a simple object hiding incredible strength. Designed to resist breaking while cleaning teeth, it can also function as fishing line, emergency thread for repairing gear, or even temporary shoelaces during long walks. Then there's white vinegar, one of the oldest cleaning agents humans have ever used. In the absence of modern chemical cleaners, vinegar becomes a powerful tool for sanitizing surfaces, preventing mold growth, and preserving food through pickling. And finally, there's baking soda. It looks like nothing more than a simple white powder, yet it might be one of the most versatile substances you could ever store. It can clean teeth when toothpaste runs out, neutralize odors, soothe burns and insect bites, clean cookware, and even extinguish small grease fires. What's remarkable about all these items isn't just their usefulness, it's their simplicity. They require no electricity, no complicated technology, no advanced infrastructure to function. They belong to a much older, simpler world. And when modern systems begin to fail, that simpler world becomes the one that matters most. Real preparedness isn't about building underground bunkers or buying expensive tactical gear. It's about understanding something fundamental, what humans truly need when the systems we depend on stop working. When trucks stop delivering supplies on time, when stores stop refilling their shelves, when convenience disappears. The answers are rarely glamorous. They're usually small, practical tools that solve everyday problems. Tools that help you start a fire, clean a wound, repair clothing, maintain hygiene and health. Maybe you'll never need them. Maybe the world will continue functioning normally for decades, but history has shown something again and again. Large systems appear permanent until the moment they fail. That's why people who prepare for uncertain futures don't do it out of fear. They do it out of awareness. Because real preparation doesn't make life more stressful. It actually makes life calmer. When you know you have the tools to handle problems that might overwhelm others, the future feels less threatening. The world may always be unpredictable, but your ability to prepare for it doesn't have to be. The best time to prepare was yesterday. The second best time is right now.